live together in a great circle of love. And when his followers asked him then who should be included, Jesus said, let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. Oligarchs and tyrants try to keep some in and everyone else outside, till revolution sweeps across the land and the people all stand and the common folk cry, let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. Sometimes a circle is a class or creed. Sometimes a circle is made of only men. Until Susan B. Anthony says, what about me? Let me in, let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. Sometimes a circle is a privileged thing, excluding people for the color of their skin, until the voice of Martin Luther King says, let freedom ring, let them in, let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. Gay and straight, rich and poor, whole and broken, open up that door. The more we are, the greater we become. After all, we all are one. Bring in the people, but don't stop there. Bring in the fish in the sea and the birds in the air. Bring in the rivers wide and the mountains tall. We go together, not at all. Let everybody in, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, everybody in, everybody into the circle, circle. Everybody, 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 everybody into the circle, circle. the others out. I don't think it's gonna work out on its own. I don't think it's something better left alone. Here we are, a family underneath the sun, fighting for our dignity, forgetting that we're one. Follow your heart to the top of the rainbow, where all of the colors turn to one. There, understand that we can't live divided. It's here for all of us or none. It's the time of man. It's the time of need. It's time we let our prisoners go. If we free our minds, we can free the world. And all it'll do is to grow and to grow. Yeah, I know how hard it is to see through the world exactly where we live, standing with convictions no one seems to understand. Mother Earth is crying just to see us hand in hand. Follow your heart to the top of the rainbow, where all of the colors turn to one. There, understand that we can't live divided. It's here for all of us or none. It's here for all of us or none. It's here for all of us or none. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome again to All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church in Shreveport's online gathering for what would ordinarily be our in-person worship service. We hope all of you are staying well and safe during this time. This is a congregation built on covenant, not creed. We are together in our promise of how we will treat one another, which is respectfully, and how we try to live that out in the world around us. We have 7 principles currently that we support in order to live that responsibly. You and your precious uniqueness are always welcome here if you come in a spirit of mutual respect. So to that end, whoever you are, whatever your age, race, origin, orientation, background, status, ability, identity, if you want to be here, we are really glad to have you be part of this. We set this time aside in order that we might collectively elevate and contemplate things that are important, matters of worth. This is the root meaning of the word worship, and so this is our worship service. I want to encourage everybody, if you have not already done so, to vote. It's critical. The symbolic sitting this out vote is particularly costly this time, so I hope you will reconsider it. It's something else I wanted to mention along the way is the city of Shreveport, which is where we are rooted, has stopped recycling. We are trying to come up with ways that we can responsibly and cost-effectively accomplish that anyway. I am willing to drive out of state if I need to haul some stuff, but I'm hoping that you will help me find places that accept the materials we have been recycling and help us come up with a way to responsibly collect them, clean materials, and take them to the recycling places. So I invite your input to me on that. I invite you to relax for a while, take a few deep breaths. Remember, this is the Sabbath, and the duty on the Sabbath is to pause. Try to make a little distance for perspective between you and the stresses of the world, even as we hold them in our hearts. So with that, I will invite us to move on into the next pieces of this service.
Hi, good morning. I'm Bennett Upton. I'm the board president here at All Souls UU, and I've got a couple of things to give you as announcements. We've got a lot going on the board. I know that, just to keep you guys in the loop, there's the 8th principle that we're talking about adopting, and we're going to be working on that. Some bylaw revisions that I'm hoping to have ready for the coming congregational meeting that's going to be coming up in December. And we've got a pledge drive that you'll be hearing a lot more about in the near future, because we definitely need to get our pledge drive underway so we can have a budget for next year. And we've got the new UU. We've been doing that generally 1 o'clock on Sundays after the service. We're canceling this week, but we'll pick it up next week and do another set of those. Let's see, and then and if you haven't seen the visitors log, it's a good thing for you to check out. If you're new to the church and you haven't introduced yourself to us yet, we'd like to get you on some emailing lists. It's pretty minimal. I know my email inbox is pretty jam-packed this time of year, but I'd like to throw just a few your way to give you some invites and some information you might like to know. And that is it. That's all I've got. I'm going to hand it over to Susan. Thank you.
Thank you, Bennett. Good morning, everybody. I just want to remind you of a few other things. First of all, family religious education will be today at 1 o'clock. We're going to be talking about finding balance, and we'll maybe do some fun stuff around balance and also some serious stuff around balance. So join us for that. And Together Louisiana has an ongoing series. Together Louisiana is a nonpartisan political organizing group that All Souls is a part of. And we are doing an ongoing series on Amendment 5. We are asking people to learn about Amendment 5 and hopefully vote no. We think it's something that would be disastrous for our state at a time when we can least afford it. It basically lets corporations decide what they want to pay in taxes while the rest of us kind of have to pay what the law says. So every Thursday afternoon at 5 o'clock, there's a presentation. There's also members of Together Louisiana that will take this presentation to your virtual meeting, whatever and whenever that may be. So put something in the comments or get in touch. And I believe the link for those Thursday afternoon meetings, the registration link, will go into the comments. And vote no on 5 and vote no on 1 also. And I think that is all I've got for today. Thanks.
So as we continue with our live to the internet service here, we hope that you'll maybe post a note in Facebook Live if you'd like to let us know that you're there. And we put information as we go along into the Facebook Live comments and stuff. So links, when they come up, go there. It's really nice to have a chance to interact with people. We do this live so that we have as much of a feeling of being together as possible. So thank you for being here. Your spirit, your energy as being part of this is really important. And we thank you for that. We try to provide resources. We try to provide support for your journey, but we can't do that if we don't know what you need. Thanks for staying in touch.
Building beloved community is one of the goals outlined by the 8th principle. And on the 8th principle website, it explains this as, quote, what happens when people of diverse racial, ethnic, educational, class, gender, sexual orientation, backgrounds / identities come together in an interdependent relationship of love, mutual respect, and care that seeks to realize justice within the community and in the broader world. The term beloved community was first coined by a Stanford philosopher and researcher, Josiah Royce, and popularized later in the writings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In one of his quotes, he uses the phrase to say, our goal is to create a beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our souls as well as a quantitative change in our lives.
And now Ava Kate Peck will do our children's chalice lighting.
Thank you. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving heart.
Thank you so much, Ava Kate.
And now I will lead us in the unison affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the sacred. Thus do we covenant with each other. And our opening hymn this morning is from Jim Scott. You might recognize it. It's Gather the Spirit, and he has graciously done this video that he shared with everyone that just has him singing in a wonderful arrangement and the lyrics. So he starts it a little different than we usually do. Don't panic, just wait and sing along.
Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit, harvest the power, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour, our trials in this life appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit of heart and mind, seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Winter to spring, and summer to fall, the chorus alive, resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again.
And we'd like to return to the chalice lighting words. I see that you've lit the chalice, Reverend Barbara, but please share your words with us. Thank you.
This chalice calls us to bear witness to the pain and struggle of this world. It calls us to emphasize, to empathize, to respond with courage and compassion. Whether our initial response is one of anger or fear or deep caring, we must be moved by what is, moved towards the healing of the world, with love as our guide and unfailing hope for the future. This chalice is our collective covenant, and it calls us to act, to do something, to make a difference, be and implement for the change that is so desperately needed. Its time has come, and so has ours.
The thing that I most remember when I think about UU history and civil rights, or UU history in general, is the day where we presented the source about words and deeds of prophetic men and women. And we had members of our congregation stand up and walk through the service and sort of act as these historical men and women and give presentations of who they were and how they felt at the time. And the one I remember most is John Allen, who you may know, doing James Reeb before he was killed participating in the civil rights movement. And he's a name that a lot of Unitarians know, and a lot of, I think, us who remember that service remember very well. And so that's where I sort of started from when I was looking into the historical issue of UU and race. James Reeb was a Unitarian who, during the civil rights movement, answered the call for Dr. Martin Luther King to join the march in Selma, and was tragically killed on his way there. And sort of the history we talk about is the way it took a white man dying to sort of ignite a national fury and response to the horrors that the police were enacting at that time. And so the story of James Reeb is one that our congregation loves to tell, and one that we historically have told incredibly well. But there's also a different part of Unitarian Universalist teachings that, to a large degree, I can't say that I knew before I started doing research on this question. John Calhoun, who we learn about in class as sort of famous Southerner, the nullification crisis. These are things that when you take this sort of AP US history exam in high school, they teach you all about him. But I didn't know he was a Unitarian until Miss Susan talked to us about this 8th principle service just a couple of weeks ago. We didn't do a lot of learning about the prevalence of eugenicist movements in the Unitarian tradition in the 19th and 20th centuries, and the way those eugenicist movements were historical sort of foundation for a lot of the great horrors of the 20th century, including great sections of the Nazi ideology and the Holocaust. And when I think about the difference in the way I learned about those two things, when I think about the incredible moving portrayal of James Reeb and the PowerPoint presentation a month ago, where I learned about these different sections of the darker sides of the UU history and race, I think about what we are taught and how we teach it. I think we as UUs do an incredible job of teaching about the best parts of our history and civil rights. And going through the UU children's religious education, I think we do a really good job of teaching our kids the pillars and the way those pillars interact with our lives and about our principles and sources. And I think there's something to be said about the way that we learn about those principles and about what adding a principle that forces us to come to terms with a lot of the darker parts of our history could do for us.
We, the member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. The eighth principle states that Unitarian Universalists will commit to dismantling white supremacy. The eighth principle came to be when Paula Jones realized that many people thought they could be good Unitarian Universalists and follow all 7 principles without tackling systemic racism. She worked with Bruce Pollock Jackson, and together they created the eighth principle. The 7 principles that are in place currently tell us to work towards the goal of creating a world community of peace, liberty, and justice for all, among other things. Many UUs argue that we cannot achieve that goal if we don't even mention racism and other kinds of oppression. Our goal is to adopt the eighth principle into this congregation and into Unitarian Universalism as a whole.
And we're grateful to Daniel for leaving us that video since he could not be with us live this morning. And now Ava Kate Peck will lead us in a meditation.
Thank you, Miss Susan. Sit comfortably where you are and close your eyes. If you do not want to close your eyes, that is fine. Focus your eyes on something in the room. We will start with a few deep breaths. Place your hand on your stomach while you breathe. Feel your stomach go in and out like a balloon. Think of something you have seen or heard that was beautiful. As you breathe in and out, think about how it looked, maybe how it smelled, and what it sounded like. Now think about how it made you feel. Think of something that was unfair to people of color that has now changed and how that change happened. As you breathe in and out, think with gratitude about the people who helped to make that happen. Imagine the world with institutional racism. How would that look like? What can you do to help bring that about? Who are leaders from the movement who inspire you? What can you learn from the movement? No, from them. Sorry. What will your role be in living the eighth principle in our congregation, in the UUA, in our nation? I also want to bring our focus to the pain that institutional racism has caused and continues to cause in our country. Imagine people of color who are hurting and scared and angry, and send them loving kindness. Imagine a world where people were treated with equality. You may now open your eyes.
And now we'll hear reflections from two more of our high school youth. And I want to thank our youth today who are presenting this service. And many thanks to Ava Kate too for the beautiful meditation. First, we'll hear from Gretchen Upton.
So I recently took a trip to New Orleans with my best friend to protest at Steve Scalise's house, who is the representative for Louisiana's 1st Congressional District. And after the protest, I got to take a walk around the New Orleans City Park with some of the friends I made, and we talked about all the different struggles of organizing in the South, and specifically organizing in such a vulnerable state as Louisiana. And I mentioned how hard it was in Shreveport to recruit people to work on important projects who weren't white and generally middle to upper class. And a girl I met, her name is Grace, said, you know, Shreveport has been for decades now one of the most segregated cities in America. And in recent years, it's actually topped that list. And on some level, I'd known how bad it was. But when you think about the most segregated cities in America, you think about Birmingham, you think about cities in Mississippi, maybe Atlanta, you don't think about right here, right now at home. And why? Because we as Shreveport's collective makeup, we don't want to take responsibility for silence. Because we think that by not being actively racist and hateful ourselves, that is some kind of change. Because we had one of the worst eras of lynchings in the nation, and we pretended it didn't happen, and we can't talk about it in schools. And we don't want to talk about it in churches, and we don't want to talk about it at the dinner table. We think that shutting the door on a problem makes it go away. But my school still has a black population that is 1/3 the white population, and gifted classes that becomes a quarter. Because my school actively filters out low-income and marginalized communities. Because we don't want to invest our effort, our time, our money, our space, and words and love into something that necessitates deeper to change. Especially when we don't stand to gain from it individually. And especially when that change starts with us. Because I mean, sure, our work has always been to uplift communities of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, but how good of a job have we really been doing? How much of ourselves have we dedicated to structural change within ourselves, within our institutions, rather than just insisting that it's there already? Rather than just insisting that we are just, how often do we renew that justice? It is sacred work to fight hard and continuously to build multicultural, diverse communities of people and to allow them to thrive. It is sacred work to uphold the commitment that we have to one another, to name it, to know that by staying quiet, we are reinforcing the institutions that have grasped our city for generations now. And it's sacred work to do it together, when it feels uncomfortable, and when it feels hard, and even when it feels unnecessary, because silence will only ever perpetuate that. Thanks.
Thank you, Gretchen. And now we'll hear from Andrew Lawrence.
Hi. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Well, I wasn't. Should I share my screen? Okay. To me, the eighth principle speaks more about dismantling systemic racism and specifically why that needs to be dismantled. To use one of my favorite analogies from Kimberly Latrice Jones, imagine we sat down to play a game of Monopoly. And for the first 400 rounds, everything that you acquired, I just took, right? And for the next 50 rounds, if I didn't like what you did, I just burned it. Like I just took your Monopoly money or I burned your cards like they did in Tulsa. And after all that time, I finally let you start playing and stop taking everything you have and ask you to catch up. How are you supposed to win? That is such a powerful analogy. I feel like it puts into perspective for me just a tiny glimpse of what it has to be like to be a person of color in America, not even speaking to the psychological warfare that entails. The way the system works now, when a person of color is born, they're more likely to be born into a lower income household, into a neighborhood where a disproportionate number of police officers are sent, born into a situation that is worlds harder than the one I was born into. Because of this systematic racism, all of these problems are not ones I have to deal with on a daily basis. Because if you think about, for example, how a natural disaster would affect my life, if everything, my whole house, everything I owned was destroyed, that would be a terrible situation, but that wouldn't affect me nearly as much as it would as someone in a worse financial situation. To use another analogy for my stepdad, if you think about life like a video game, and to get to the end, there are a certain number of bad guys you have to defeat. If the first one lets me pass because I'm white, and the second one lets me pass because I'm a man, and the third one lets me pass because I was born into a stable financial situation, that's 3 less challenges that I have to face than some people. It's easy for me to forget about these problems because I don't have to wake up every day and face them. I don't have to get a job while I'm in school if I don't want to support my family. I don't have to be scared to walk to the gas station, that an encounter with the police would be my last moments. Or just to live in this country which is supposedly full of freedom and good. To put it in other words, full of freedom and good if you're white. What the 8th principle says to me is that working towards spiritual wholeness without working towards dismantling these oppressive systems can't exist. To me, it means that thinking and trying my best to help can't be something I do when it's convenient or when I'm not busy. It has to be something that I'm always thinking about and always doing what I can to create a system where the color of a person's skin won't negatively affect every aspect of their life. Thank you.
First of all, I want to again thank Eleanora, Andrew, Gretchen, who had to work today and made the video, Daniel, who was going to be out of town and made the video, and of course, Ava Kate for the meditation, for the work and thought that you have put into this. I really appreciate it. And I'm just here really to talk a little bit about what this will look like going forward. We got to the 7 principles we have now by employing the 5th principle even before it was called that, the democratic process. As the Unitarians and Universalists were preparing to merge in the months leading up to May 12th, 1961, it is said that the merger almost derailed a few times over the language of the principles, which were 6 at the time. And if you've ever wordsmithed with UUs, then you probably feel their pain. But it's also the great joy and beauty of our faith that we do take that time and we do take that thought and we do wrestle with the big ideas and hopefully lovingly, sometimes with each other. But we do that because it matters what we say. It matters the things that we agree to covenant around. Theologically, we are so diverse, but we do have this bedrock theology that the source of life and love is a good and loving force, and that we cannot be separated from love. And that's an important thing. And so, in the 6 principles of the then newly formed Unitarian Universalist Association, there was language that needed to be fixed. There was a lot of language about mankind and men, and there was a lot of language about the Judeo-Christian tradition as being kind of the standard. And the 7 principles, with the 6 sources added, were created to, first of all, you might guess it was the women who started talking about how they needed to be revised. And the 6 sources, or initially 5 sources, were added to the principles so that we preserve that respect for our Jewish and Christian roots, for the roots that we came from, and for the roots with which many of our members still agree. And yet we were able to widen that theological umbrella. And we are, as we always say, as the front of our hymnal says, a living tradition. And so the 7 principles that we covenant to affirm and promote today were adopted by our General Assembly in 1985. And the 6th source was added in 1995. We're a living tradition, and every change over the years comes up from congregations and finds its way to the floor of General Assembly. The right of conscience and the use of the democratic process. So the 8th principle has not been formally brought before General Assembly, but many congregations are choosing not to wait and to ratify the 8th principle for themselves. We as a congregation, we today presenting this service to you would very much like to do that, and we're hoping that you are ready to join us on this journey. When we finish the current session, there's 2 more sessions of our UU Elevator speech that we're doing right now in adult religious education. We'll be taking on the 8th principle and really kind of delving into it and delving into more of the history that our youth have done a really great job of starting us on that path today. And I appreciate, and historically it matters that it was the youth doing this service, because it's the youth who first merged when we began the merging process. It's the youth who have led the way so many times as they are today. They are not the leaders of the future. They are the leaders now. They're going to be great leaders in the future. Don't misunderstand me, but they are the leaders now. And so I thank y'all again for what you've done today. And so we look forward to the continued discussion. We look forward to, I would like to see us at our congregational meeting in December, if not before, if not at a special congregational meeting, but that's going to be up to us and to the process. To not only adopt the 8th principle, but to live into it. That's the important part, to live into it from day to day. And with that, we will hear from the All Souls Choir, the virtual choir, with thanks to Reverend Barbara for putting this together with her song, her original song, I'm Ready.
One, two, three, four.
For a justice
Are we ready to close the service? After the acquittal of Louisville Police Department officers in the shooting of Breonna Taylor, protests swept the city. Police retaliated, arresting 26 people, including State Representative Attica Scott, in front of a Unitarian Universalist church that had been helping shelter protesters as curfew and police arrived. Reverend Kent Gilbert, president of the Kentucky Council of Churches, said, "We are all grateful that none were seriously injured tonight, but remind all that until justice, peace, and security is as equally available to brown and black citizens as it is to white citizens, we must continue to speak and act. Our faith demands better of us and of those who govern on our behalf." Reverend Don Cooley, a Unitarian Universalist minister, said, "This is what churches are supposed to be, right? They're supposed to be sanctuaries and havens for people who are in need." We extinguish this chalice, thanking Eleanora Lawrence and the ministers referenced for their inspiring thoughts. But we carry with us the flame of justice, the single fire of wholeness, and the unity of creation. With peace and justice for all, so be it. Blessed be. Go in peace. Amen. And Ashe.
Way back when they said all men, they meant every wealthy European male. So back then, to vote required being white and being rich and being male. They said if you can't vote, if you got no property, you can't vote. If you're not free, you can't vote. If you are a woman, you got no stake in democracy. Year by year, people had to wonder what the Declaration must have meant. By all men, clearly it was time for an electoral adjustment. And they won the vote for those who had no property. Won the vote, those who'd been free. Won the vote for women, and they wrote it down, it was guaranteed. They all said it's my vote, you can't deny it. My voice can't take it away. My right, I won't be crying. It's my vote, my voice, my right. My vote, my voice, my right. Well, the rights are right, but without a fight it can evaporate and float away. And by night, people came to creeping and tried to take the vote away. They said, you can't vote, you haven't paid the poll tax. You can't vote, you can't pass the exam. You can't vote for fear of retribution. The people stood up and said, well, damn, it's